Okay, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to our Starting a Passion Project workshop with TK Coleman. This event is hosted by the U Economic Initiative in partnership with the Foundation for Teaching for Economics Education. My bad. I'm Cheryl here at the YEI. Get ready to adopt unconventional methods to make sure your passion projects are successful. First off, we're going to go over some norms. So first, if you have your camera on, that'd be great. This kind of ties into our second norm, which is staying engaged throughout the entire seminar. And third, TK Coleman, our speaker, will be asking for like engagement from all of you through the chat. So please keep the messages in there appropriate and relevant. If you send any inappropriate messages, we will have to remove you from the seminar, and we don't want to have to do that. And the fourth one is just a little bit about how the Q&A will work at the end of the talk. So there will be a chance for you to ask any questions at the end. And if you have any questions, feel free to private message them to me throughout the talk, and I'll ask them on your behalf at the end. You can also unmute yourself to ask the questions yourself at the end. And the first one is just more for your information. We are recording the seminar and will be uploading it onto our YouTube channel. Last but not least, please enjoy our speakers event. Next, Ian Chen, YES CEO, will tell you a little bit about our organization.
Hi, everyone. We're super excited to welcome you all to this wonderful speaker event co-hosted with the Foundation for Economic Education. Just a little bit to preface before we get started. The YEI is the world's largest coalition of high school economics clubs, and we're a student-run 501c3 nonprofit dedicated toward empowering youth entrepreneurs and economists with pathways towards careers in finance, economics, and business in the future. Outside of our public events and webinars like this one, we offer a wide-ranging set of resources and opportunities exclusively available to our chapters, including our 2 flagship competitions, Econ Bowl and Econ Olympiad, which gives students a chance to demonstrate their knowledge and win cash prizes. We also offer economics and financial literacy curriculum, which can help you get your club started immediately, and our initiative provides service and research opportunities to all of our members. Over the past year, we've impacted the lives of over 2,000 students, distributed over $1,500 in prize money, and established chapters across the nation. As we continue to expand, our team is committed to opening new doors for our members and students toward empowering students to find and explore their passions in economics and finance. If you want to know more about the YEI or join our team, please check out our website at theyei.org. Now, Cheryl will be introducing our wonderful speaker, Mr. TK Coleman.
So TK Coleman is the Director of Entrepreneur Education at the Foundation for Economics Education. The Foundation for Economics Education is our partner for the event. They are a 501(c)(3) educational foundation and has been trusted by parents and teachers since 1946 to captivate and inspire tomorrow's leaders with sound economic principles and the entrepreneurial spirit, with free online courses, top-rated in-person seminars, and free books for classrooms, as well as relevant and worldly daily online content. He's also the co-founder of Praxis, a community that helps aspiring professionals launch their careers through project-based learning. He has immense experience with startups, as he was integral to the development of Rock City Film. Please give a warm welcome to TK Coleman and get ready to learn.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Michelle. It's good to be here. I look forward to hanging out with you all for a little bit and hopefully helping you all come up with some creative ideas for whatever things are important to you in life. Creative ideas are not just for the fine arts, but creative ideas are for every aspect of life. And I believe that the goal of life is to live with a sense of artistry, to approach everything that we do as if it is a part of the creative process. You know, the creative thinking applies to our relationships, it applies to our schoolwork, it applies to our jobs, it applies to our dreams. To be creative is to realize that there is nothing that lies outside of the boundaries of creative thinking. And so if there's anything that I can sell you, I hope it is that conviction. I hope I can transfer that belief to you. So I like to begin by telling one of my favorite stories and maybe interacting with you a little bit around the story and extracting a few lessons from it. So it's the story of the man with the magic penny. And it's a story about a banker who is running late for work. And as he's on his way to work, walking down the street, he passes by an older guy who's selling trinkets out of a cart. The older guy summons the young banker and he says, "Sir, I have exactly what you need." The young banker looks at him and says, "Well, what is it?" And the man selling trinkets out of a cart says, "It's this penny. It's a very special penny and it's just for you." The banker is a little bit confused, a little bit weirded out, but he thinks to himself, well, I'm in a rush. I'll just humor the guy, takes the penny, puts it in his pocket and goes on his way. As he's walking, he mistakenly bumps into another man. And the other man says, "Watch where you're going, jerk." And he turns around and he looks and he says, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And the guy's face turns red and he says, I didn't say anything. And he takes off. And the guy with the penny in his pocket, the banker, he thinks, well, that's really strange. I'm sure I heard him say something to me, but he says he didn't. He keeps walking. And then he walks past another person who says, "My gosh, would you please slow down and watch where you're going?" And he turns to that person and he says, "What did you say?" And it's a woman, and her face blushes, and she says, I didn't say anything. And she rushes off. And at that moment, a very strange thing occurs to him. He realizes that this penny that he has in his pocket is a magic penny. It's a penny that gives him the ability to read other people's thoughts. And so then he proceeds to do what you and I would never do, of course, if we had a magic penny. He begins to eavesdrop on other people's thoughts. And he goes to work and he says, oh, this is really going to be fun. All he has to do is look at a person and he hears exactly what they're thinking. He looks at his coworker and he hears lots of thoughts going on there. Some things make him smile. Some things make him laugh. But then he looks at one particular coworker sitting in the corner, an older person that's been working at the bank for a very long time, and he hears some thoughts that makes him feel very concerned. Here's what he hears. I've been working at this bank for 20 years, and no one has ever shown me any appreciation for all of my hard work. Well, today's the day I'm going to teach everybody a lesson. During my break, I'm going to take my book and my book bag, and I'm going to go into the vault like I usually do. And everyone's going to suspect old man Joe of doing nothing more than harmlessly reading his book in the vault. But today, I'm actually going to take money from that vault. I'm going to put it in my bag, and I'm going to get out of here. And by the time anybody realizes what's gone on, I'll be on a flight to Europe, and they will never see me again. That will teach them not to leave a loyal employee unappreciated. The banker with the magic penny hears those thoughts and he says, I've got to do something about this. I can't let him rob the bank. That'd be terrible. So he goes to the manager and he says, listen, you got to listen to me. I was on my way to work today. I passed by this guy selling trinkets out of a cart. He says he has something special for me. I know it sounds really weird. And he gives me this penny. Turns out that it's a magic penny. I can hear other people's thoughts. At first, it's all fun and games. But then I heard Joe over in the corner saying to himself that he's going to try to rob the bank. What should we do? And at that moment, the manager looks at him and he says, is that so? Wait one moment, please. And then he goes to get the security guard. He brings the security guard there. He says, would you mind telling him what you just told me? Oh, absolutely. I was on my way to work today and I passed by a guy selling trinkets out of a cart. He gives me a magic penny. I can read other people's minds. I read Joe's mind. Joe is thinking to himself right now that he's going to rob the bank. What are we going to do about it? I'm going to pause the story right here because I want to know from you what you think the reaction was. But before you answer, I want to be clear about what I am not asking. I am not asking you to tell me what you think happens at the very end of the story. We can come back to that later. I'm not asking you what you think he should have done. We can come back to that later. At this moment in time, I just want to hear your answer to one question, and that is, what do you think the reaction of the manager was? Did the manager go, oh, wow, what a great idea. Let's put a stop to this thief. Or was it something else? Feel free to come off the mic. Feel free to type your answer here in the Slack, and I will read them here. Disbelief, says one person. Didn't believe him, says another. Disbelief, says another. Keep the answers coming. Didn't believe him. Ridicule. I think they'll think he's crazy. LOL. They thought he was crazy. I think he was surprised and thinks he's crazy. Send him to a mental hospital. He's crazy, says another. Keep them coming. It seems like everyone is on board that the manager's reaction was crazy. I think they fired Joe. Oh, okay. Okay, so it seems that the majority here believe that the reaction was that he's crazy. Well, that wasn't a trick question. You're absolutely right. That's exactly how the manager responds. But now I'm confused. I'm confused because I just told you that according to the premise of the story, he really does have a magic penny. He really can hear other people's thoughts. And that Joe really is thinking about robbing the bank. So he's right. He's telling them the truth. Why would they think he's crazy when he's clearly telling them the truth? Talk to me in the comments. Why would they think
They don't know he's saying the truth.
they don't know he's saying the truth? Their experience is not the same as his experience. Okay, that's a valid answer. Another says here in the comments, he needs to prove himself. All right, that's a good answer too. Just because there's something in your mind doesn't mean that it's obvious in everyone else's mind. I have another that says he didn't address the manager's doubts. That's a good one. Everyone has different pieces of evidence that they might need to see in order to accept something as true. You have to find that out for the individuals that you're talking to. Another here says magic pennies are not a widely accepted fact. I certainly don't seem to live in a world where magic pennies confer this kind of ability, so I would be skeptical. Makes sense. Maybe the manager thinks he's plotting something and trying to distract him. Okay, we all have had experience before of maybe someone trying to deceive us or mislead us, and this kind of reeks of that. Another says he has a different perspective than us. We view the story from the outsider while they don't know about the penny. A very good thought. All of these are good. All of these are valid perspectives, very insightful. Now, on the surface, it may seem as if we are talking about a fictional story of a fictional character from a fictional universe with a fictional penny, a fictional solution, and a bunch of people who don't believe him. But let's consider the elements of that story. Here you have a guy who sees a problem that the people around him don't recognize. And he has a solution that can change everything. And if the people only listen to him and consider his idea to be good, everyone will get better. And yet, people respond to him as if he is crazy. Does that sound familiar? If it doesn't, give it a few years, because this is not merely a story of a man with a magic penny. This is the story of every creator, every artist, every innovator, every entrepreneur, every person who dares to question the status quo, every person who dares to think differently, every person who seeks to introduce a new possibility into the world. And I hope that would be you. Now, no, I don't hope that people think you are crazy, but I hope that you will all strive to be the kind of person who refuses to accept the world at face value and who chooses to live as if possibilities can be negotiated, who chooses to live as if you matter, your perspective matters, and that your perspective can make a difference. But if you choose to live that way, you might have an experience similar to the guy with the magic penny. So here's our first lesson. In the beginning of the creative process, there is no distinction between the crazy person and the creative person. And every person who wishes to generate a creative idea and act upon it must overcome this problem of external skepticism. They must overcome this problem of wanting the people around them to get excited about the idea, to support the idea, to invest the idea, to tell everyone about it, and everyone says, yay. And when you tell them your idea, what they really do is they get really quiet and nervous and uncomfortable, and they wonder, are you okay? Is that really going to work? This is not a special experience that some people have, but others don't. This is the norm for people who seek to make a difference. And we could go down a very long list of examples of this, but one of them would be the example that's right under our nose. Here we are on the internet, communicating with one another across vast distances in space. How is this possible? Well, it seems like it's obvious that this is a valuable thing. We all have these smartphones and we can all communicate with each other. The first computer was big enough to fill up the size of this entire room that I'm in. You had to be wealthy to buy such a computer. And yet that computer, in terms of processing speed, in terms of memory, in terms of accessibility and affordability, is inferior to this device that I hold in my hand that fits in my back pocket in every single way. We take it for granted. What an awesome, self-evident thing. And yet there was a time where the ideas that we live by now all seem to be very strange. If you haven't already seen it, I encourage you to watch this YouTube video. It's kind of funny. It's from a late night talk show called The David Letterman Show. And one of the guests is Bill Gates. and Bill Gates is on the show and he's talking about the internet. And I paraphrase the conversation, but Bill Gates is trying to explain what the internet is all about. And Letterman's just kind of confused. And Bill Gates is kind of giving examples. And he's like, you know how you might watch a baseball game? Well, suppose you can't be around when the game is live. Well, on the internet, you can watch it at any time. And Letterman listens to that and he's like, well, have you ever heard of VCR? Okay, all right. Well, suppose that you wanted to listen to the game or something like that while you're moving about or riding in your car. The internet will allow you to do things like that. Have you ever heard of radio? Okay. Well, suppose you wanted to talk about baseball with other people that were interested in it and so on. Have you ever heard of magazines? And on the discussion goes, and the audience is just laughing the entire time. This internet idea seems like kind of silly. You know, I mean, we already have magazines, we already have radio, we already have television sets, we already have VCR. I'll tell you what, Bill, once you guys get this internet thing sorted out, maybe you can come back and explain it to us then. But right now, it sounds a little confusing, overwhelming, and completely unnecessary. That's how creative ideas are. And now we look back on a video like that and we laugh at the people who didn't get it. That's kind of like the cycle of the creative process, right? First, we laugh at the people with the ideas, and then we laugh at the people who didn't get the people with the ideas. That's kind of how it goes. You take the automobile. Nearly every family has one. We walk outside, we see people driving around. Surely, when this idea was first proposed to the world, everyone said, makes perfect sense. We're limited to walking around, driving on horseback. That car can move really fast. It can get us from point A to point B and save us a lot of time. It can help us travel to very far away places. Surely people thought, what a fantastic idea. It can change the world. No, the majority of people thought that sounds really confusing, really stressful, and really scary. Why? Because there are a few assumptions that we take for granted when it comes to what's necessary for an automobile to work. When we look outside and we see automobiles driving around, they seem to perform really well, but we also have a transportation infrastructure that is designed to accommodate automobiles. We have roads. And of course, automobiles look pretty well and function pretty well when we have roads. But what happens when we haven't had automobiles yet and we haven't designed roads for automobiles? The first automobiles had to demonstrate their value in an environment that was not optimized for car travel. It was an environment that was optimized for horse travel. And horses can do pretty good moving around in spaces where cars cannot do pretty well. And if you're already used to horses and you already know how this works, that can seem very secure. These cars are really loud. How are they going to move around? But not only that, what about this thing called fuel that we need? Well, in today's world, it makes sense. You can hardly travel a few miles without reaching a gas station. But what about when you don't have a transportation infrastructure designed for automobiles? What do you do? Where do you get gas from? There aren't gas stations on every block. How do you even store it? How do you carry it around? These were not that people had easy questions for. And so the idea of an automobile produced a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of concern. In fact, in the UK, there was something called the Red Flag Act. There were a series of regulations around automobiles. One of the more interesting ones being that you had to have an engineer travel with you if you were the operator of a motor vehicle. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine you want to go out with your friends, or you want to go get some fast food, or you want to drive to school, but before you can go anywhere, you've got to call an engineer, hope they pick up, hope they're available, make an appointment, have them drive with you? You kind of lose a lot of the benefits of an automobile when you have a stipulation like that. And then the Red Flag Act, there's a person waving a red flag that has to run ahead of the automobile to warn people of like this noisy, frightening machine that can kill everybody in sight. That's how the automobile feels when it's really new. But today we laugh at that idea. Haha, surely no one thought that way, right? Surely no one thought that way. But it's the man with the magic penny. Such is the nature of innovation. Such is the nature of having creative ideas. So the first thing that is important to keep in mind as you were trying to figure out how to live a more creative life, how to generate a creative idea, how to come up with a project idea, is that you must not limit your possibilities in life merely on account of someone else feeling concerned about your idea. That's always going to happen when you try to do something other than what is already done. Let's return back to the man with the magic penny for lesson 2. You all guessed correctly that they thought he was crazy. I want you now to put on your consulting hat and imagine you have been hired to help out the young banker with the magic penny. We know that he sees a problem. We know that he has his heart's in the right place. He just wants to solve the problem. And we know that if we tell the manager this unbelievable, crazy sounding story, that we're just going to get sent away. Everyone's going to roll their eyes and not take us seriously. So let's come up with some ideas for what we can do to solve this problem that doesn't get us dismissed as crazy. Talk to me, either come off mic or talk to me in the comments. All right. Prove to the manager that he can actually read minds by reading the manager's mind. So you can say to the manager, give me a number 1 through 1,000,000. Such a large margin of error, right? Low probability that you'll guess it. And then you guess it correctly. Maybe you do it several times in a row and you can convince him. I like this idea because it illustrates the importance of thinking about brilliance, not merely in terms of how much I love my idea, but thinking about brilliance in terms of how well does my idea match with the story that the other person is telling themselves. Everyone is telling themselves a story. And when you try to give an idea to another person, they're not merely going to react to it based on the content of the idea, but based on the story that they are telling themselves. And in order to move ideas forward, you have to be willing to make yourself a student of humanity. You have to be willing to learn from other people, and you have to be willing to understand, why are they skeptical? What kind of evidence do they need to see in order to believe? It can be very easy for a creator to kind of get angry when people don't immediately get excited about an idea. But all the success stories come from people making themselves students of humanity and saying, you know what? I think my idea is good. I'm not going to get irritated with you for questioning it and not believing it. Tell me, what do you need to see in order to place faith in this idea? And then I'm going to see if I can come up with something that alleviates that concern. This is what Uber did, by the way. When they had this idea of a ride sharing service, people looked at it and thought, oh, I'm scared. Get in the car with a complete stranger. Yeah, that's frightening. I think I'll stick with the taxi cab thing. More expensive, perhaps, but we all know where that leads. What did Uber say? Oh, nobody understands good ideas anymore. Away with you. No, they said, let us make ourselves students of humanity. And they said, okay, well, what do you need to see? And so they came up with features in their app, features like, we will have a photo of the driver. We will have the license plate information. We will have GPS tracking so that you can send to anyone that you know a text message that gives real-time updates on where you are, along with the destination address and the expected arrival time, so they can know when to expect a confirmation text from you. And then more and more people said, okay, I think I'm willing to take a chance on this thing. I think I can trust this thing. So there's a very powerful lesson there, just even built into this exercise of coming up with suggestions like that. Prove that the man can read minds, such as using another person or yourself as an example. Absolutely. Ask Joe about it. We can see if Joe is willing to admit it. All right. Show appreciation to Joe and take him out to lunch. This will make him feel better. And then Joe won't want to rob the bank anymore. All right. We got 2 lessons in one. This is powerful. Okay. Lesson number 2. Creative ideas come from a disposition of personal responsibility. What do I mean? We all know the experience of looking out at the world and seeing things that just don't strike us as being right. We all know what it's like to look at the world and say, what I'm observing bothers me. I think someone needs to do something about that. And the problem is not enough people take seriously the idea that perhaps they are the somebody who should do something about it. That's called the permission-based mindset. The permission-based mindset is you see a problem and you think to yourself, oh boy, it sure would be great if we had someone on the student board about that issue. All the while it's going right over our heads that you might be the person. You might be the person. The fact that that problem frustrates you, the fact that you even notice it says something unique and special about you. Have you ever complained to someone before? About something that really got you worked up, and you complained to them and they just didn't get as mad as you? And it kind of made you even more mad. You know, here you are huffing and puffing about something, and you know, your friends just don't really care. Like, oh yeah, they're listening to you because they love you and they're trying to be nice and polite, but you know that they're not really worked up about the issue like you are. That can make you mad, but that could also make you feel inspired, because the things that make you angry are a clue to the things that you are uniquely optimized and incentivized to change. If you're upset about something and no one else is upset about it, well, there's your competitive advantage right there. That means you're dialed in on something, you're fired up by something, and you're going to be motivated to do something about it. And you don't even have any competition because no one else cares in the way that you do. A lot of times we overemphasize the role of passion in coming up with ideas. Think about your passion. What are you passionate about? And I think that's fine. I think that's great. I think you should think about what you're passionate about. But there are a growing number of people who are really anxious now because they're like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know what the one thing is that makes me happier than all the other things. And there are more ways to think about what fires you up beyond passion. Another way you can think about that is what makes you angry? What makes you annoyed? What makes you upset? And instead of dismissing those feelings as evidence of how unenlightened you are, you can step back and say, well, what are these feelings teaching me about myself, about my values, about my priorities, about my vision of the world? One of the richest sources of creative ideas are your own frustrations. When you learn to approach your feelings, not as something to fight against or chase away or suppress, but when you approach your feelings as a source of wisdom, you approach your feelings as a teacher, they will provide you with some of the wealthiest ideas you'll ever find in life. Creative ideas comes from a place of taking personal responsibility for the differences that you want to see in the world. Not for the things that other people tell you that you ought to do, but the differences that you want to see in the world. And you can recognize that by looking at your passions, but you can also recognize that by looking at your frustrations. You know, the third lesson, I want to reread this because this was a powerful insight here. Show appreciation to Joe and take him out to lunch. This will make him feel better. And then Joe won't want to rob the bank anymore. It turns out that the real problem here wasn't that no one believed in the banker. The real problem wasn't that people doubted his magic penny story. It seems like that's the problem, but that's not what the problem was. The real problem was that he underestimated his own creativity. This guy had a direct solution to the problem, and it was completely invisible to him. It took you like 30 seconds to come up with it. Joe is angry for not being appreciated. Whose permission do you need to go to Joe and say, hey, Joe, you know, funny thing, we've been working together all this time and I never really got to know you. I'd love to buy you coffee today, man, and just kind of pick your brain and hear about some of your experiences here and see what I can learn from you. Or Joe, I just wanted to take a minute, man, to let you know how much I respect you and learn from you just by watching the way you show up and do your job. I want to let you know that I appreciate you, Joe. Joe wants to feel seen and heard, and he's motivated to do this thing because he doesn't feel seen and heard And the guy with the power to do something about it is arguing with other people about a magic penny. How many arguments do we get into that are nothing more than a distraction from our ability to exercise our creative power in a way that makes a difference without requiring anybody to change their minds about the existence of things like magic pennies? You don't need a magic penny to be a decent human being. You don't need anyone else to agree with your worldview in order to be a decent human being. The idea that you just came up with here, not me, you came up with it, is what economists call permissionless innovation. There are so many things that we can accomplish, so many ideas that we generate by adopting a mindset of permissionless generation. But so often we're kind of stuck in that habit of saying, you know, I'd really love to see this result, but I don't have any money. But nobody really takes me seriously. But nobody really thinks I'm smart. They all think that Jeff is the smart one, and they don't think I'm smart. They all think that Sarah's the talented one, and they don't think I'm talented. So I guess I have to just sit here with all my ideas and wait until the world around me changes, and just wait until everyone magically thinks that I'm the smart one, or wait until everyone magically thinks that I'm the talented one. Change doesn't really happen that way. Change happens by saying, you know, there are a lot of people around me who don't take me seriously. And that's okay, because that has been true of many of the most brilliant innovators throughout history. That's okay. I can handle that. And I don't need them to take me seriously, but I do need to take my own imagination seriously. I do need to take my own power to make a difference seriously. And I do need to pay attention to the changes that I want to see and think about these things in a creative, non-permission based way. And when I do that, I can find ways to make a difference. And when I make a difference, it doesn't matter if anyone successfully predicted it. What matters is that I made a difference. One of the best ways you can find creative ideas is by looking for ways to help people. The writer James Baldwin said, nothing is more important than a human being. It's so easy to get distracted by all the different things that we can focus on in life. But if you want to know how to become creative, start focusing on people and ask yourself, well, what can I do to make other people's lives better? What can I do to make their lives a little bit easier, a little bit more pleasant? How can I inspire them? How can I assist them? If you think about it, people who complain, if we were all free enough to kind of just be honest and admit it, people who complain can be very annoying. They can be very annoying, you know? You ask someone, how's it going? And then they just go on for like 5 minutes, giving you a complete rundown of like everything that they hate about life. That can be really annoying. And so what people tend to do is they tend to smile and be very polite with those people. Oh yeah, I'm so sad that it's like that. That's really terrible. And then inside they say, never asking that person that question again. And then they sort of avoid that person and they run away in the opposite direction. It's what people do. But here's another way to look at complainers. Complainers are a massive source of wealth. When I talk about wealth here, I don't mean anything superficial like dollars, okay? Complainers are a massive source of wealth. Here's why. Because when people are complaining, they are telling you all the problems going on in their lives for which they would find a solution to be very valuable. And if you are someone that's struggling to come up with ideas, go ask people what makes them unhappy, what makes them annoyed, what are they struggling with, what's difficult for them right now. Go find the complainers and listen to the complainers, because complainers prove two things. Number one, that there are problems in the world that are still unsolved. If their problem wasn't unsolved, they wouldn't be complaining. Oh yeah, but TK, there's a solution and they just don't know about it. Okay, well, that's a problem that needs to be solved. If there are solutions and there are people over here that don't know about those solutions, that's a problem that needs to be solved. And that problem becomes an opportunity for the people who choose to use their gifts and talents to produce a solution. So either there's no solution and you can come up with it, or there is a solution and they don't know about it, and you can be the one who uses creativity to solve the problem of people having solutions that they don't even know about. Either way, there's an opportunity there. All right, so let's summarize. Number one, creative ideas are always challenged and always questioned. That is the nature of the status quo. Number two, creative ideas come from a disposition of personal responsibility. Pay attention to what gets you excited, pay attention to what makes you angry, and take ownership of the changes that you want to see in the world. And when I say the world, I don't necessarily mean the cosmos. I mean your classroom, your home, the little spaces where you have locus of control. Someone needs to take that garbage out. Someone needs to do something about that thing that's going on over there in the corner. The small things, the local things. And then number three, if you ever struggle to come up with creative ideas, look in the direction of human beings, because wherever there are people, there are problems, and there are people complaining about those problems. And if you listen to them with a learner's mindset, you can come up with ways to help find solutions or coping mechanisms for those problems. And in doing so, you create a tremendous amount of wealth for others and a tremendous amount of wealth for yourself. In fact, there's nothing less self-interested than learning how to serve people. It was Zig Ziglar who said the best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want. That's how you create a win-win. All right, so I've covered some general principles surrounding creativity and how to approach life and how to generate creative ideas. But I want to pause here because I want to have time to dive into the specifics of things that you're struggling with, things that you're questioning right now, things that you're trying to achieve. You can ask me about problems. You can ask me about projects, whatever's on your mind. Let's use the rest of this time to workshop anything that you want to talk about or that you want to ask me. Feel free to just come off the mic and speak up, or you can chat with me here and I'll read it and answer it.
So I had a question about, if you're really passionate about a certain issue, how do you get other people to recognize that that is an issue that needs to be solved and kind of bring awareness about it if it's not like as mainstream?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So the first thing is begin with the realization that if everyone were equally passionate as you were about the things you're passionate about, then there would be no need for you because you would be replaceable. The fact that we even have this problem, the fact that you're even asking that question is evidence that every human being is different, that we all have different sensitivities, different proclivities, that we all have different talents, different strengths, and different gifts, and that none of us were meant to be the same, that each individual is uniquely optimized to address and resolve a different set of problems. And in order to make a world work, we need a diverse range of personality types who care about a diverse range of problems, which means I need to be the kind of guy who doesn't lose sleep over the things that you lose sleep about. And you need to be the kind of person who doesn't lose sleep over the things I lose sleep about. We need the kind of world where you can get really fired up about something and I listen to you and I don't get quite fired up about it in the same way. And I say, hey, that's awesome that you're really passionate about that. Let me know if there's any way that I can support you on your mission to make the world a better place. We need that kind of world. So that's the first thing. When people don't see the importance of these issues, don't be mad at them. Don't attack them. Don't yell at them. Don't say, well, you guys just don't get what's important. Understand that this is not evidence that other people are complete idiots. It's evidence that you are unique, you are special, and you are here to bring something forth so that the rest of the world can look at it and go, wow, so glad that you were born. So glad that you came into existence. So glad that you followed your dream and that you fought for your cause. That's the first thing. The second thing, everyone knows what it's like to have someone say something to them and to see those words just flutter away without anything ever coming from it. You know, in the world of business, for instance, investors listen to hundreds of entrepreneurs coming up with ideas, and they have to learn how to distinguish what's a good idea from a bad idea. Talk is kind of cheap, right? If someone says, here's a problem and here's an idea, no one really cares because everyone has an idea. But how do we know which ideas are good and which ideas are not? Well, one of the best ways we can persuade people to invest in an idea is by going first. By being willing to be the kind of person who will invest in an idea, even when no one else cares about it. And then when you begin to build momentum, other people can watch your results and say, wow, first of all, that person is serious. They mean business. In a world where everyone has something to say, here's a person that's acting on their beliefs. That's interesting to me. Not only that, when I see this person acting on their beliefs, I'm noticing that they're making little changes. And that's interesting. I wonder what that person could do with a little support behind them. The paradoxical thing about support is that you get support when you don't need it. Support is kind of like credit. You know, my dad taught me this lesson about credit a long time ago. He says, the way to get credit is to not need it. To be the kind of person who doesn't need the bank's money. And when you are the kind of person who doesn't need the bank's money, then the banks compete with each other. They knock themselves over and they say, please take my credit card. No, please take mine. We'll give you lower interest than that bank, right? The best way to qualify a loan is to be the kind of person who doesn't really need it. When you don't really need it, the banks say, oh, please take a loan from us. When you really, really need it, they're like, oh, we're afraid of you. We're afraid of you. That's kind of a paradoxical thing about support. And it's similar when it comes to people investing in your ideas and in your dreams. It's when you have an idea and you want people to take that seriously, the best way to get them to take that seriously is to signal to them that you're not going to lose your passion just because they don't believe in you, and that you're going to go act on your dream, even though they are skeptical, and you're going to create the best results that you can create within the capacities that you have. And when they see your confidence, they see your commitment, they see your results, then they become more interesting. There's this movie called The Matrix. I believe it's the second one. And there's this scene where you have this character Morpheus, and he's talking to one of the commanders, and Morpheus is telling him what he thinks the solution should be. And the commander says, Morpheus, not everyone believes as you believe. And then Morpheus says to him, fortunately, my beliefs do not require them to. That's real power. That's the kind of power that moves people. When you are so committed to what you are here to do, and other people say, yeah, I don't really care about that. And you say, all right, that's okay. I still care about it. And I don't lose my passion just because the people around me are skeptical. I'll tell you what, though, if you ever become interested in this, I'm your person, okay? Because I believe this is very important. I'm your person. In the meantime, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go read about my passion. I'm going to go write about my passion. I'm going to go talk to anybody who listens about my passion. And one day I'm going to build so much momentum that you're going to see the changes I create. And you're going to say, hey, TK, what was that thing you were telling me about 5 years ago? Oh, yeah. You know, it's a lot easier to notice when someone is producing results. That would be the advice that I would give you. People invest in momentum. So just build in momentum. And here's one last thing. When I used to work in sales, the best advice I received is when I had someone tell me that sales is not the process of trying to twist people's arm in order to get them to buy products that they don't want. If someone tells you they don't want a product, smile and thank them for their time and move on. Sales is the process of finding your tribe. It's the process of looking for people that already need what you have to offer and then helping them find the solution that's right for them. So if I'm selling vacuums, I don't want to spend time talking with the guy who thinks vacuums are stupid. That's only going to annoy him and waste his time. It's only going to annoy me. And even if he really needs a vacuum, if he's resistant to the idea, I don't want to waste my time and his arguing with him about it. I want to find the people who really need vacuums and who want to have a conversation about vacuums. That makes it more fun for me. And more importantly, it connects me to the people that will help me get productive business done. So focus more on finding your tribe rather than on trying to persuade people who aren't into what you're into, because that's going to be a much more enjoyable approach by finding those people. So, you know, make use of community spaces online, make use of online courses, make use of discussion threads to connect with people that are already into that passion. And that's what's going to explode your network and surround you with people that share that same conviction. And then that will build you up and make you more inspired. If you spend all your time around people that don't get it and you're arguing with them, that's going to eventually drain your energy.
Awesome. Thank you, TK.
Hope that was helpful. Got time for a couple more.
A question I had was like, you talked about like identifying problems, right? Like, from like the complainers, and then like from like what we're like passionate about. I was wondering, like, do you have any tips for like coming up with a solution for those problems?
Sure. So one thing you could do is, when you're around people that complain, is do the opposite of instinct. Usually when people complain, the instinct is to generate solutions as quickly as possible to get them to stop complaining. Oh, I'm so, tired all the time. Have you tried going to bed earlier? I'm so tired all the time. Yeah, you thought about changing your diet, or just, not wasting so much time, in this way? Instead of doing that, use it as an opportunity to learn. Ask more questions than, present more questions than suggestions. So tell me more. You're tired all the time. Tell me more. What, what does that look like for you? Like when you wake up out of the bed, you're tired, or, or is there a certain point in the day you get tired? Are there moments in the day where you're more tired than others? What, tell me more about that. Okay. Why does that bother you so much? Like, what does life look like if you're not tired? Like, if you had more energy, what sorts of things would you do? Okay. Do you have any thoughts about this? Do you have any ideas for what's making you tired? Is it someone in your life? Is it a certain activity? Is it, you have any thoughts about that? Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. You see what's going on? And now I'm learning. Even if I don't come up with a solution, I am winning big time, because I'm getting smarter right now. This person is teaching me something that I just can't get out of saying, oh, you're tired, maybe you should go to bed earlier. In fact, when I ask them, have you tried anything so far to deal with this? Well, yeah, I tried going to bed earlier, but that doesn't work. Tell me more about that. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean that doesn't work? Well, every time I go to bed, someone interrupts me and I end up having to stay up, really late. Oh, okay. Okay. So you're not saying that when you go to bed early, that doesn't work. You're saying that when you try to go to bed early, you're not successful at that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. That makes sense. So do you think if you did go to bed earlier, that would help? Yeah, that would. Okay. So the problem here seems to be finding a way to get in the bed early that actually works, given the people that are around you all the time and so on. Yeah, that's right. See what happens? In many cases, when you ask enough questions for a long enough time and you listen sincerely with a genuine spirit of curiosity, people will walk you right to the solution. In many cases, you let people talk long enough with the right questions, they'll find the solution. Thank you for it.
Good advice. Thank you.
Another thing you can do too is, even if you have an idea, just ask questions first, because there's a saying, I believe it was John Maxwell, who said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so even if you have the right solution to someone's problem, they will often resist you if they don't feel like you heard them or took the time to care, right? So asking questions will not only help you find solutions, but it will also help you in the process of getting them to accept your solution. What else we got? Got a few more minutes here. All right. Let's see here in the chat. You've talked a lot about how all of us are different and we all have brilliant ideas that other people just don't see. With that in mind, is there such a thing as a bad idea? That's a good question. So we have to make some distinctions here. There are two senses in which we can say something is good or bad. Actually, three senses. The first sense is legally. We can say that something legally is good or bad. And certainly there are bad ideas legally, right? This is defined by the law. If you do these things, you will be penalized or arrested. All right. And you don't want to do things that are legally bad. The second sense is morally bad, morally good, morally bad, things that pertain to what it means to be a decent human being, what it means to be a good person, you know? So if, for instance, you are trying to make yourself feel good by making other people feel stupid, that'll be a bad thing, right? Or if you are trying to exploit people or defraud them for the sake of making money, even if you can get away with it, even if it's technically not illegal based on some procedural thing, that would be a morally bad thing. So there are things that are legally bad and morally bad. Now let's move to the third category, creatively bad. Is there any idea that's creatively bad? Well, that's an interesting question because this is kind of ambiguous. I don't like the music of Justin Bieber. Is it bad? Well, his fans don't think so. In fact, there are a lot of people who pay a lot of money to listen to that music, right? Everything that you think is bad creatively is liked by someone somewhere. So I think a better question when it comes to creativity is not, are there bad ideas, but rather, does this idea successfully create the result that I want to create? If it doesn't matter if you think it's good. It doesn't take you where you want to be. If it does, it doesn't matter if someone thinks it's bad. It gets you what you want. An example of this, you think about having a business idea, and in your mind, the idea is brilliant. Oh, this is just amazing. This is the best idea ever. The world really needs this. And when you share it with the world, everyone's like, nah, I don't care about it. I don't like this at all. It doesn't help me solve my problems. Okay, well, maybe the idea is good inside your head. Maybe you have some philosophical argument of why the idea is good, even though everyone disagrees with you. But does it really matter? Like, if you want people to buy into it and they're not buying into it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so you want to think about creative ideas in terms of works that doesn't work. Imagine if I decided that I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. Hello, everybody. I'm TK Coleman, going into stand-up comedy. And I get in front of the audience and I say, all right, everybody, listen up. Why did the cat cross the road? And the audience is looking at me thinking I've got some innovative joke coming. I say to get to the other side. And no one laughs. And I look at the audience like they're crazy and they don't laugh. And I say, well, you know what? I've been studying Jerry Seinfeld for 20 years. I know good comedy. And you guys don't know what's funny. And I throw down the mic and I walk out. You think I'm going to build a successful career as a comedian that way? No. Even though I might think my jokes are good, it doesn't really matter if I can't get other people to agree with me. So when you're creating, whether it's writing, composing music, building business ideas, instead of beginning with the question, is this idea good or is this idea bad? Begin with the question, what is my why? What do I want? Do I want to sell 1 million copies? Do I want to just find one person whose life is changed by my story? Do I need 1 million views? Do I want 100 views? Do I want to make $200 a month? Do I want to make $10,000 a month? Do I want to be famous, or do I want to make my family laugh? What do I want? What's my goal? And then you make changes and you accept constructive feedback on the basis that it's going to help you do the kind of work that will help you achieve your goal. Good art and bad art is art that helps you get where you want to be or accomplish what you want to accomplish versus art that doesn't fulfill your vision. That's my take on it. We could say a lot more about it, but I'll leave it there for now. And I have one more thing in here. Oh my gosh. If a product already exists to solve a certain issue that most people don't know about, would it be a good idea to try to recreate the product, but market it better to people, addressing their doubts and having it fit into their story, like you mentioned? In particular, as someone who feels the negative medical consequences of radiation emissions from Bluetooth and mobile products, I did some research and found that a few products like radiation deflecting phone cases exist, but most people aren't aware of the negative effects of mobile Bluetooth radiation and don't know these products even exist to solve the problem. Could I raise awareness and create a product that solves the issue for people? Yes, 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 yes. There's more than one burger place. There's more than one grocery store. There's more than one hip hop artist. There's more than one record label. There's more than one action movie. There's more than one brand of ginger beer. There's more than one form of coffee. There's more than one kind of tea. And even if you just focus on lemon balm tea, there's more than one brand that sells lemon balm tea. Just walk into your grocery store, zoom in on any product, whether it's coconut oil or Coca-Cola, and you will see multiple brands existing alongside of each other selling the same product. So there is certainly room in the world for more than one person, more than one company to sell one kind of product or service. And the reason why is because different people have different needs. Different people respond to different stories. So when it comes to your creative ideas, never suppress them merely because, well, there's someone else out there that wrote a fiction story that's kind of similar. Yeah, but there are going to be people in this world who listen to you just because it's you who's talking. You know, there are friends I have, I can say, oh my gosh, I just read this book. You should go read it. And they never listen to me because they don't like the authors that I read. But then they want advice, they come ask me and I can tell them something that an author said. They're like, oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Changed my life. Well, go read this. No, I don't want to read what you read. Your books bore me. Right. So why do we have remixes when it comes to music? Why is it that you can have 5 different artists sing the same song and different people like the different versions differently? We all have a voice, and some people in life are going to listen to you because it's you who's talking. There are some people, they just don't want to hear from TK. Even if you like me, even if you want to hear me, there are some people who, as soon as I start talking, they're just like, I'm just not feeling this guy. He's just not my style. But then when you say the same thing, because of your story, your background, the way they relate to you, they're going to pick it up. So never hesitate to share what you have to offer just because you think there are other people who have offered the same thing. Your greatest source of originality is not the idea itself, but it's the way that you put it together, the way that you execute it, and the way that you tell your story. All right, we're at time. I want to respect the time. It's been a pleasure. This has been a lot of fun hanging out with you all. Let's do another round. I suggest we do another round soon, and maybe I can make more time. I thought I made a lot of time available for Q&A, but it sounds like we could have gone on for a lot longer. So let's make another session. I can open up more time for Q&A, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, everyone.
Yeah, thanks TK for the inspirational talk today. And yeah,
Cheers.
I think a lot of us were able to take away a new perspective from your story about the magic penny and also your advice for how to find solutions for complainers. Yeah, so thanks to everyone for attending this workshop on entrepreneurship and
Can I say one thing before everyone logs off really quickly? I have a, if you can do me a favor, I have a really quick, it takes like 1 minute feedback form. If you can help me out and fill this out. I'm putting it in the chat right now. It truly shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes, but it helps me out if I can collect this kind of feedback, because the donors who support the work that I do and make it possible for me to go around the world teaching, being able to share with them this kind of information is tremendously helpful towards supporting my mission. So thank you.
Cool. And we at the YEI also have a feedback form, so if you guys could fill that out too. Yeah, so thanks again to everyone for coming, and also thank you, TK. It was a really nice talk, really engaging.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Coleman. Can you see me?
Let's see here.
Hello. Well, it was really.
I don't see you, but I hear you.
Okay. Yes, it's the guy in the yellow shirt. If you end up seeing me, hello. So my question that I wanted to ask,
Did you want to keep the recording going? It's your call.
it's okay.
Okay.
Fine, whatever. So I recently got an internship for my city, and it's about like community engagement and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they said that they give a lot of different options of what we can do, and I am doing it with 2 other people, and so we can create our own project, and then they said that we have like the funding to do that. And I've always been more of a person who is on the execution side of ideas. I usually don't come up with them myself, but I find that I'm better at like actually creating, like putting them into action, and implementing them rather than creating the idea within the vision. So I was just wondering how you would advise me going about that, because we have a lot of free reign. I was wondering if you can help me more with the creating an idea part, because I've always been more of the implementing person.
So this is a personal opinion of mine, but I think implementers, executors, project managers are very rare. I think people who can move an idea from concept to completion and actually mobilize the people around them to act on it, those are very powerful people. There are always people that are coming up with ideas. There's no shortage of those kinds of people. And so if that's something that you're really great at, and it's something that you actually enjoy, I would double down on it. I would go all in on that and focus on how I can be even better at that. So I don't believe that greatness is the result of being equally good at all the different things. I believe that greatness is the result of identifying the small number of things that you are uniquely advantaged to do, because maybe you just have a high tolerance for pain in that area. Maybe other people are bored by it, but you find it entertaining. Maybe you're naturally good at it. Maybe you can do it all day without burning out. And if you found something like that, if project management and implementation is like that for you, then what I would do is I would focus more on just hooking up with people that have creative ideas. I would market myself to people who are creators like, hey, do you have ideas, but you struggle to write them down in a way that is coherent and shareable with other people? Do you have ideas, but then they just kind of get lost and never get acted on? Do you have a whole bunch of ideas, but you have no concept of how to boil them down and simplify in order to get started? Do you have ideas, you know how to get started, but maybe you struggle with procrastination or finding the help that you need? I am your guy. I am the person who helps make ideas happen. We live in a world where lots of people have creative ideas, but few people are able to get their creative ideas across the finish line. If you're one of those people, hire me. Like, that would be my pitch. I mean, I'd be ready to hire you.
Thank you. That meant a lot. Thank you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just enjoyed the penny story. It was very insightful for me. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Pleasure's all mine.
It was nice to meet you. Have a wonderful day.
It was nice to meet you all too. Take care. Let's do another round. I look forward to it.